Welcome to Digital Transformation Survivors, the podcast that talks to industry professionals about their challenges in learning how to manage complex web estates. I'm your host, Julian Tedstone, the Managing Director for Coherence, and we specialise in figuring out how to help businesses manage complex web estates, web portfolios. So that's environments where maybe you have multiple websites, multiple web applications, serving different markets or different audiences or stages in their user journey. And I guess the point of this podcast is to help us explore the unique challenges that present and the solutions that come with that. From the perspective of the technologists, business leaders, and marketing practitioners that have experience in that field. And today I'm very excited to introduce our guest, Adam Bird. Adam is the Senior Technical Website Development Manager for the British Business Bank. Now, the British Business Bank is the UK government's vehicle for helping small to medium-sized UK businesses gain funding, investment and advice. And so it's really at the heart of the UK's growth strategy. And that makes Adam one of the most influential technical managers in the UK, working at the heart of UK government policy implementation. So no pressure then. Adam, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Jules. Thanks very much for that warm introduction. That's not a label that I can pretty much own. There's a whole team here at the British Business Bank and obviously further up in government that are far, far more influential than I am. But I'm just a small voice in a rather loud room.
Well, we are very honoured to have you here this afternoon, Adam. And I guess today, this session is a really interesting opportunity to understand how such a mandate as the UK government's growth strategy gets broken down into a web program. And what that looks like, and I guess you have a unique perspective in helping us understand some of those challenges. So let's kick off. It'd be great to understand, help the audience understand a little bit more about your role. Give us a vision of the British Business Bank and its mission. And we'd love to hear more about your particular role in that mission.
Sure, no problem at all. Well, the British Business Bank, we're actually celebrating our 10-year anniversary. We formed in 2014 as a suggestion from Vince Cable as part of the collaboration government at the time. So the idea is essentially as an economic development bank that we support and help finance markets grow with a whole range and raft of incentives and programs to really encourage and stimulate growth and help small businesses really start to grow through a whole manner of different programs that we offer. We had a very challenging time, obviously, with COVID, and we helped facilitate some of those programs on behalf of the UK government to support millions of businesses throughout the pandemic. And above that now, the bank is continuously to grow. So we very much have a bit of a sort of starter up ethos when we first started. But we have grown so dramatically over the 10 years. And with that has come obviously those challenges ourselves to be really reactive to government mandate whilst trying to grow and do the best of our jobs and put systems in places that will enable us to continue to grow and support the UK economy.
But you were very modest about your role in that, but I know that you've got a very key role in making sure that happens from the perspective of the web channel. So how do you help to support that role?
So, I mean, the website is, it's our digital storefront. We're not a brick and mortar institution. We are very much, I wouldn't say behind the scenes as such, because there are obviously part of our organisations, the UK network, are out there talking to the industry, talking to finance providers, and really amplifying what we do here at the bank and our programs and how we can support. But myself really has had to, since I've been at the bank, undertook quite a significant re-platforming exercise, because as a result of our sort of starter type mentality, every sort of area of the bank as it grew popped up with a new website. So we had different teams creating a new website, all with WordPress, signing contracts with sort of different vendors and different platform managers. And so it really became quite challenging to really sort of manage that on an ongoing basis, centralize that. So I started in 2020 with the initiative to re-platform all of our digital separate sort of websites into a single platforms and take ownership of that. And so that took best part of 2.5 years for one reason and another. The vendor selection process was very thorough. It had to be, and that's one of the challenges that we have as an organisation is we are under scrutiny in terms of making sure that we get value for money. And because we are effectively spending taxpayers' money in everything that we do, so that has to go a long way, and we do have to get the best value for that.
So that puts you in the heart of the kind of a governance imperative, with that kind of level of scrutiny and that transparency and that public mission. And then at the other hand, there's that need to be almost kind of entrepreneurialistic, in your own ethos, and innovative and ability and able to bring initiatives to the UK marketplace really quickly. And then I guess on top of that, we've had some major events since 2014, haven't we? I mean, there's obviously there's Brexit's happened since then, and COVID happened since then, which you just referenced. And there's a series of changes in government and public policy making during then. So, what kind of environment does that create for the web channel? And how do you what's your experience been in helping to kind of, I guess, create a robust platform to deal with that?
Well, it's the kind of an element of not having a BAU, because everything does happen reactively and urgently. So I mean, we're in a really good place now from when I first started. I mean, I was fortunate, and I started after the sort of chaos of the initial COVID program, really, because it was effectively chaos, because we had websites that weren't designed to accommodate the number of traffic and the volume of people that were coming to the site, but the actual templates were never configured and set up to display the information that we needed to display. So we had to undertake that sort of process of going, well, actually, how do we become more adaptable as an organisation? And so moving over to a new content management system, which you, with yourself and our partners at Acquia, have given us a really strong platform in which we can, God forbid, another sort of big situation like that was to happen, we would not be in the same situation as we was during the middle of the pandemic, when lesson content editors were up at midnight trying to hurry through changes at the same time, and trying to accommodate some of the legislation deadlines around website accessibility. That was in September of 2020 as well, and that's something that as part of our re-platform exercise we have had to bake in. So some of those learnings that the team went through back in 2000 around making our platform more accessible. How do we make sure that when we deliver this new platform, it's accessible out of the box, as well as giving our content editors and the wider business all of the tools that they need to put content onto the website should they need to, and quickly and efficiently as possible.
So I guess, kind of picking that apart, there's that kind of self-serve capability, the ability for content editors to manage their own content in a very proactive way when they need to be reactive, I guess, if that makes sense. But they need to be able to respond quickly. That can't go through a complex and onerous publishing workflow.
That's absolutely true. Absolutely true. I mean, and having developer resource support and standby, a content editor should just be able to put content on the website as they need to. I mean, all of the content that does get put onto the website anyway has a process behind the scenes, outside of the CMS, because it has to go through legal, particularly things around our product, particularly wordings in our guidance articles and things like that. It's very heavily scrutinised. We're not allowed to be seen as giving advice as such. So that has a lot of sort of guardrails between it. And so whilst the content editors write that content, it goes through the approval process, which is generally offline. But then when it comes onto the website, and as long as somebody's had some sort of editorial overview of it, just to make sure the layout is they're happy with and satisfied. So that process online of producing and editing and publishing content is very, very seamless now as a result of the decisions and the planning that we put into place.
Yeah. It would be great to help the listeners understand just how broad that audience set is. And I know it's not going to be possible to break it all down, but can you give us a feel for just how many different types of audiences you need to cater for?
Yeah, I mean it's plenty. It's plenty. So you have your SME audience, so people who are established as a business, and they are looking to grow, and that could be anybody from a small micro brewery through to somebody out on the water looking at ecological purposes on the coast and revitalising the channel, to parliamentarians wanting to see the performance of our programs that we're running, from journalists, venture capitalists, from people who just have that, you know what, I want to start my own business and coming to us for a startup loan, and all the pitfalls that starting a new business entails, and then also because we are an arm's length body, associated to government, the general public, stop by and have a look at what we do and want to know more about us as well. So there's a whole abundance of different people coming to our site, and that offers us a real challenge because I have a background in the transport, in the travel industry. And so the best thing about that was that any visitor that came to our website straight away told us immediately all about their needs. So I'm to adults, I'm for children, I'm flying from a London airport and I want to go to this destination. So we have all of that information up front about that customer. Now, the destination might change, but the airport generally stayed the same. The travelling party stayed the same. And so we could really tailor, personalise those journeys for those customers, and we serve them, right down to the finest detail. But with this and the number of different audiences that we target that come to our sites, it's very difficult to understand in a great deal to who they are and what their intentions are. So it's a lot more behavioural based. And I think now that we are in that position of we've gone through that replatforming journey, our next step is, understanding the people who are coming to our website. How do we respond quicker to their needs? What we are seeing as well, particularly with the rollout of Google Overview, is a lot of those customers that were coming to our website, particularly in our business guidance area, where we offer sort of guidance around all elements of running a business. Rather than come and visit and reading those articles, Google's taken out the answers and serving those answers on search results. So that's another challenge for us, decent challenge that we're starting to not necessarily, we're starting to understand it, and how do we react to that, and how do we change our metrics because of that. And that's one of those current challenges that we're excited to take on.
It's almost like the internet is kind of cannibalizing itself, isn't it? It's you're not in control of where your content is is surfaced, or how people are going to access that content. It might start off in your website, but it's where it's going to end up is not really in your control anymore.
Yeah, and it's a crucial thing for us. Is obviously we need to be seen to be authentic, and so it's very easy to say, well, actually, Google is presenting content. We don't need to put that content on our website. But at the end of the day, if it wasn't on our website, Google wouldn't be able to use it as an answer. So it's really important for us to keep making sure that the content that we produce is relevant, updated, and accurate. Even more so, really, if AI are going to be calling it, potentially using it out of context. So it's really, really, really important that we do continue to keep submitting that and publishing that content.
So you, it, the picture you painted of the bank's journey over the years is really, it's starting out with that kind of central entrepreneurial journey to bring those support services to small and medium-sized businesses and support the UK government's UK economy's growth. But more and more kind of missions have been added, or I guess they're all in the same in service of the same aim, but there are multiple, I guess, products, multiple services, multiple divisions within the bank now, and each of them is coming with their own perspective and I guess their own kind of like measurements requirements and content requirements. How do you manage that conversation within an organization that complex with that many stakeholders, and what does that process look like?
That's a good question. We are still kind of, in many ways, immature in terms of having that big, overarching vision and the big overarching kind of roadmap, essentially, for the website, because lots of things are happening and everything's always in kind of response mode. And so quite frequently what we're finding is that everything's running in parallel, but they converge. So what we're trying to do is unpick the conversion and putting it back at the beginning so that we know where we want to get to, because quite often we don't quite know where we want to get to until we've got there. But I think what we are aiming to do, and what we've always done, is have a wide range of people from across the business and a very well structured working groups. So everybody is equally represented across the board. So we have a number of working groups consistently throughout the day on different work streams, different projects from various, disciplines across the bank. And I think we're all play a part in making sure that any kind of cross-pollination of those work streams is communicated, and that we are all essentially aiming for the same goal, and that is to help the UK economy and the people that kind of drive that. So, I'm not sure if I did that answer very justice.
It was a big question, to be fair, and I don't think there's always going to be a perfect answer to that. I think every organisation struggles to align different objectives from different business units. But I think I think you're right when it comes to taking those strands and then picking them apart and weaving them together where they make sense, making sure that you find the kind of the commonality between them, and then kind of weaving them into the overall web solution. That seems to be a really effective way of doing it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
Yeah. So you mentioned a couple of times now about accessibility, and I know from the time that we spent together, that's a really key passion of yours. What is it? It'd be great to understand a little bit break that down for us. What does accessibility mean to you, and how do you see its role? How important is it to you as part of the mission of the website?
It's all very easy to call it a personal passion. And it is essentially a personal passion. I brought up in a family whose mother was hearing impaired, my grandmother was hearing impaired, so was my aunties and nieces and cousins, and myself growing up being at school, losing my hearing in teenage years, which was challenging, obviously, as you can expect. Still coming to terms with that, even in adulthood. But it's always been there as a sort of feeling left out, feeling on the sidelines kind of thing. My first web development role as a developer was with Kent County Council, and I was taken to the town hall in Maidstone to a really dark room, and there was a chap there who was showing me how to use JAWS, which is a screen reader software, and he was giving me the examples. So we're talking what, 2004. So the early BBC website, and he was talking through that and using expletives around things that wasn't working for him, and it made it imagine really exciting, really interesting. And so I was like, wow, so I'm seeing that from a hearing impaired and a visually impaired perspective. But it's not just around that, like it's all sorts of reasons. There's people who just generally have no challenge with eyesight. As they get older, like yourself, getting older and having visual challenges.
Yeah.
We've got a partnership with RNIB. I love that partnership with RNIB. I was there early on in this week, having a look around their new office, and it is incredible what they are doing there. So as you walk around the building, there's these quirky, colourful sort of QR codes, and you scan them, and it will tell you where you are in the room. It will describe the room. It will describe where all of the different things are in each of the different drawers, so that people, have some context as to where they are in their surroundings. So, accessibility for us as a public sector organisation, it's not a nice to have. It's a must have, so we are obliged by law. But even in our previous career, working in other organisations, I was always reminding people around our accessibility requirements and how we can, make things a lot easier for people. So it's absolutely crucial in everything that we do. And I do hope to have a role within the bank to sort of extend our accessibility and inclusivity, not just to our digital estate, but even in our office building. Similarly, as I say, inspired by the RNIB, having sort of lanyards with QR codes on them that you click to, and it brings up more information about that individual and all sorts of other things, that what we saw and what we witnessed. So it's not just about digital, it's just about how we work and just being more inclusive workplace.
Mm. Yeah, and the time that we've been working together, you've been a real champion for that, and I think you've really sought to make sure it's at the heart of everything that's being done. Where do you see it going? What are the things that we as an industry could be doing better? And what would accessibility look like, do you think, in a few years' time? Where would you like to see it going?
Well, I think that public sector guidance just needs to be mandated across every sort of digital estate, a digital experience. And I think having a partner like yourself, Coherence, is listening to champions of accessibility of myself and taking on board what we're asking. And, you guys have made that investment yourself in JAWS. And I know that the team have had communications with RNB and having the same training that we had. And so it's almost like that sort of pay it forward, here's the experience that I've had. I've introduced you to, an RNIB accessibility champion, not an optional thing. Let's pick it out right from the box, right from the get go, rather than trying to refactor everything once it's done. It doesn't cost anything to create an accessible web estate, but it costs to refactor things once they're done. So it's better always to do it out of the box. And it's accessibility by design, inclusivity by design, and as well as, how you architect your platform. So it's fundamental, really, and I think organisations, agencies such as yourself, do need, and as you do, are bringing that into the planning phases, and really kind of just talking to people around why it is important and why it's a must-have, not a nice-to-have.
Mm. And I think there's always a kind of or there's been a perceived tension between the need to do things quickly, and to be responsive across the web channel on the one hand, and then on the other hand to build in really, really strong kind of governance principles that helps to deliver the best user experience. And obviously one of the key user experience in there is accessibility, and that's always been a circle the industry has tried to square. That how well do you think how do you think modern kind of digital experience platforms are managing that? Do you think they're doing a good job of kind of baking in those accessibility features, or do you feel like there's still a way to go before they're ready to roll? From the point of view of someone who's just been through a replatforming process, did you find those features were in place from the start, or is that something that you felt needed to be built in to a greater extent?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. I mean, as I say, about all that, we're our platform, CMS platform of choice. I went to a conference last year, and it was all around accessibility, and they were doing some great stuff in accessibility. I actually went to a conference and I had closed captions, which was transformative at the time, right? To be in a conference and absolutely hear everything. So that was a really great thing. But in terms of the development side of things, when we started off the development project with them, there were, we asked for accessibility features, we asked for accessibility controls, and then we went up a bit of a hill around, well, actually, this is accessible. Well, actually, no, it's not. It might tick a few boxes on the WCAG conformance, but in reality, it's not fully accessible because this criteria is not met. And then when you add this to other components and other elements, it makes this inaccessible because we don't have the option, for example, of selecting heading values. And so the response was, well, content editors aren't really educated on accessibility, so we don't normally provide configurable headers. And I'm like, well, we at British Business Bank are educated on accessibility. We've been on that journey, and anyone that comes into the bank has a workshop that they complete around digital accessibility. So we do need and should have those forms, those options available to us. And inevitably, with any sort of new project, we didn't get it fully right from the get-go. There were things that we put in that had knock-on effects in other areas that we weren't quite expecting. But we have a process in place. We have software in place. So we use a piece of software called CrownPeak, which audits our website every single day. And so when a content editor does let an accessibility issue slip through the net, we get a report the following morning and we can correct it straight away. And it's about being responsive to that and putting those right processes in place, the right software in place if needed. It's not just software. Obviously, with accessibility, there are lots of manual checks that we do need to make. And, we've embedded those processes with the development team here at Coherence as well. So,
and I think that's been part of a really interesting journey, hasn't it? It's just how many different ways you have to attack the challenge. It's not just a code issue. It's not just a content element. It's not just a user experience feature. It's all of these things, working together, isn't it? And then reviewing it from all these different perspectives as well, holistically. It's really, really key. So, with such a diverse platform, or a platform that is that is serving so many different communities with so many different kind of initiatives. How do you go about measuring success? How do you go about, I guess, benchmarking? Where you're at relative to where you were. What does that process look like?
That process is relatively in its infancy, if I'm honest with you. With that kind of run before you can walk kind of setup, sometimes we are trying to do so much on what is quite limited resource within the team, because we are growing. We've got so many projects in flight, and not enough kind of resource to be able to do it justified. So our sort of measurement framework is in its infancy, and we have sort of one sort of data analyst who's sort of part time, in lots of ways, because their roles kind of split. So it's always on request, really, around what it is that she can deliver. So what we are doing, working with yourself, Jules, as you'll know, and some of the talented team you've got there, is trying to give ourselves a platform where we can take on a measurement framework and we can adapt that to any area of the site. And some of the thinking that we've had from the guys has actually been quite inspiring. We're looking at sort of the comparable contents between PDF downloads and sort of HTML equivalents, which is one of those areas what we're looking to move forward to in terms of how we publish our reports, rather than these sort of lengthy downloadable PDFs. Can we do the same in HTML now that we've got a layout canvas with components that's a little bit more flexible? Yes, we can. And a couple of those reports that we've done over the last sort of 12 to 18 months. And so the team there at sort of Coherence have gone, well, okay, how do we kind of measure this? And they put some logic in place where it measures the word count on the article. It gives you an average reading time, and so your average reading time comparable with your actual time that you've been on page, and kind of give that as a percentage. And that really kind of gives you some strong indicators of how that content is doing. And so we sat there when we presented it back. It's like, okay, wow, we need to kind of adopt this, right? And so there's a lot of that sort of no-brainer stuff that we don't necessarily have that sort of time and capacity to be able to do, but it's stuff that we should absolutely 100% be doing. So it's sort of very easy to be reliant upon third-party expertise, but there becomes a point in time where you do need to take ownership of that, and that's an area where me personally are looking to kind of champion and to bring that expertise, because whilst the service has been great from the team at Coherence, if any of those staff decide to leave, it takes that knowledge and experience with them, isn't it? And it's having that own resource inside, and working closely with someone and closely to individuals, and having all that legacy information at hand. If you do bring in a new member of the team, that process is a little bit easier to cover off.
And I think, this kind of brings us, quite neatly to kind of discussion around, what digital transformation teams look like and how they function. Because there's a piece there about the kind of working with strategic partners on the one hand, so you get that kind of diversity of input, but at the same time having the ability to, I guess, be sovereign over some areas of your strategy. So you've got that, and there's always going to be that foundation stone within your own organization. And that's a really tricky balance, because isn't there? Because there's kind of shifting key person dependencies on across the whole roster, isn't there? And within the client organization as well. So that's always a kind of a challenge to manage that. What are your insights in terms of someone who's worked in the industry and has got all that experience for so long? And I think you see things from both a kind of an engineering and a technical perspective, and then you see it from the team perspective, and you see it from the publisher and from the audience perspective. What do successful centers of excellence look like? What kind of shape do they look like? What kind of ethos and culture do they have? And what can we learn as as an industry about how we set up really successful web platforms serving all these different communities? What are the kind of the key learnings there?
I think it's foundations, having the foundations right and having processes that validate the roadmap that you're on. I mean, we're in a really kind of unique space where you're working towards something and things pivot 360 degrees in completely the opposite direction,
Yeah,
because we're at the beholdens of government and decisions, and as well as continuously trying to grow and evolve as an organisation and mature as an organisation. But
yeah,
essentially having, I mean, you're right that there is an absolute blend here between in-house expertise, third-party agency expertise, where that engineering team sits. I mean, I've worked in terms of having external engineers and internal engineers, and you can make a case for both. Um, Having an internal team of developers allows you to be very quickly, not beholden to allocated hours. Some of the challenges that we do have is X amount of hours per month for X amount of cost
yeah,
versus a backlog and new requirements that come in daily. So yeah, I can service that backlog a whole lot quicker with more budget. But having internal developers, you've got them for full time for a week, and you're not restricted by how many hours that they're spending on. So having that mix of internal development team, and the crucial thing here is the data piece, and understanding what people are actually doing on the website and cascading that out to the business in a communicative and educational way, because quite often, and what I'm finding at the moment is because we haven't got that, people are coming to things with assumptions. And so those assumptions are delivered in briefs, those assumptions are delivered in kickoff meetings, because there isn't that insight pack that has already been delivered. And someone's actually done that delivery and understand the data, understood the data, understood what it's saying, and hinting towards what a potential solution may look like. So yeah, I think that's crucial to take that ownership in house. And so if there was, we're still in January, so I can still make a New Year's resolution. Just some data resource that we can sort of take on some of those reports and some of those measurement frameworks that we've been collaborating on, and really take those into the organisation and actually own them with our own hat on.
So, where would you like to be this time next year? And what are just reference just turning the page on a new year? We're into it now. What do you think? Let me put it like this: what do you think are the key trends that are going to be hitting our sector and the British Business Bank within that? What are the key trends that are going to be hitting us? What we're going to need to be responding to? What are the kind of things that are on your radar?
It's strange. Like, so this time last year, if I'd have asked me the same question, my answer would have been, oh, stability, let's get this platform, establish the platform. But then A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way up to Z happened. And then this year looks now completely and utterly different. So when we're talking about planning, I'm planned out now till September, October already. There are a huge amount of different variety of different things to work on, which is massively exciting and really good and different as well. So inevitably, the hot topic, artificial intelligence, AI. Everybody wants a piece of the pie, but it's how do we kind of embed that into the bank and actually make it provide value. I think there's a few myths that potentially we need to debunk around what AI is and how it can help. Um, and as well make sure that we are being authentic. And I think that authenticity is key. And so, by having an AI chatbot onto the website, for example, that diminish our authenticity a little bit. People want to trust us as an organisation and trust the information that we're giving them, and with that AI element, that reduce that element of trust down a little bit. So there's a whole journey that we're going to go on as an organisation. And it's just trying to make sure that we adapt to that journey and listen to everything that we gather on the way, and just adapt to the ever-growing challenges of what AI is going to do for us, as well as ensuring that our platform still remains robust and that content managers can still produce information that is going to serve our customers' needs. We've got talk around how we position ourselves out there in the market. How do we simplify some of our offering? So that's going to necessitate sort of wholesale changes to the main corporate website and how we signpost to customers, bringing in that sort of personalisation software that actually helps enable some of those user journeys to be done a little bit more dynamically and without assumption. So that's something that we're really looking forward to doing.
Wow. So, I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? Over the course of a year, you can go from, replatforming and in a kind of replatforming stance, and in the trenches with the Jira tickets, through to then you're looking at all these really exciting new technologies that have come along, and new approaches that have come. Well, personalization isn't new, is it? And I think I think it's about 2 years now, since the launch of the first ChatGPT model. So, time's running on, but it feels like some of those technologies are now kind of maturing to the point where we can do some really interesting things within the tightly governed environment, but where we do have to be very, very careful.
Yeah, so. I mean, there's a whole abundance, isn't there, out there of AI tool solutions. The world is very much our oyster. But I think the crucial thing, and it's highlighted again, I'm going to go back to the ONRB experience I had earlier on this week, around the different tools that they're using on their phones, around making their lives easier for people with visual impairment, blindness. And there's an app from Microsoft, it's like a lens, effectively. Take a photograph and it will describe it for you. I was most upset by it because it described me as a 49-year-old man. I'm not 49. It took me 3 or 4 attempts to get my age correct. It still was a really, really, really powerful tool, and it provided value. Okay, so it might not be the age exactly right, but it's ballpark right. And it describes, mannerisms on the face. You're smiling, it says you're smiling. If you're angry, it says you're angry, etc. And particularly for products, describe the products and the things that were on the table. Handwriting, it dictated and read the writing and read that back. So you can imagine that these tools are making a considerable difference to the lives of people.
Yeah.
And I think that's the crucial part for us: is how do we take technology and improve the experience for those people coming to our website. And I think that's just true of all things, not just necessarily our web estate, but as technologists, how do we use technology for the good?
I cannot think of a better way than to conclude with that thought. I mean, I think that's ultimately why many of us came into this industry in the first place. It's because we saw a series of tools and approaches that could bring benefit, and that's why we're in it. That's why we picked up the keyboard. So I think that's a great place to wrap up this really, really interesting conversation. So Adam, is there anything that you think I should have asked that I haven't?
No, I mean, it's the first time I've done one of these. I've probably said a whole lot of things that I shouldn't have done, and probably said things that I would have said completely differently had I done it again. But so no, thanks ever so much for having me on. And if anyone's listening and they've found anything useful, more than welcome to get in touch.
Well, it's been truly insightful. I know from working with you over the past years, I think you always bring that very thoughtful insights to whatever the conversation is. So thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. And it would be great to invite you back on maybe this time next year, and we can see how the world has changed again. We'll make it an annual review.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, it would be a little bit grayer, and yeah, it would be definitely worthwhile. But no,
Super.
thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Adam Bird.